Oh, it's a nice day. Oh, we could sit right here. Wouldn't that be a nice little place to sit and talk? We're in the sun. It's not too cold. Hello. Hello. And they're just enjoying the sun. Looking up, looking out, and looking in. So you've downloaded Xiaohongshu, and now you're determined to come to China. You're just about to file the paperwork to get your visa and to come on over here, and you're wondering, well, wait a minute, how much money can I make teaching English in China? Well, let me tell you about that. I think it's fair to say that teaching English, you're not going to get rich. This is not an industry or something that you do if you're looking to make multi-millions of dollars, at least by teaching English itself. I have been asked, generally, how much can English teachers make? That is, and by English teachers, I mean ESL teachers. So people who are either trained or are in the ESL industry. And I mentioned that trained or in the ESL industry because China was one of those countries that for a very long time didn't have very high standards for the teachers that they were employing, either in the schools or in the university system. Now, over time, that has changed, and over the years, especially the last 5 to 10 years, the requirements and the standards for teachers, specifically the requirements, that is, the education requirements, have gone up quite a bit. Begin with, if you don't have a bachelor's degree, let alone a CELTA or a TESOL or an English language teaching certificate, then it's going to be tough for you to find a job. Now, 20 years ago, even 15 years ago, you could have pulled that off, but nowadays that doesn't really happen so much. One of the reasons why you're going to need that certificate and that degree is for basic visa requirements. That is, when the job is offered to you and the company is going to apply for a visa for you, because they're going to sponsor that, they're going to need to show that you are what they call a special talent and are needed in the country. And one way to do that is to have someone have a bachelor's degree or a teaching English certificate. Now, you need both. Don't think that you can get one or the other. You actually need both a bachelor's and a teaching English certificate if you want to teach ESL in the proper school system, and if you want a properly sponsored visa. Now, if you don't want to go the properly sponsored visa, good luck to you. This video is not for you. I know it happens. It used to happen quite a bit. And I think it's one of the reasons why the government kind of cracked down on the industry a couple of years ago. They're going to ask for experience, but your primary experience is actually going to be that CELTA or the TEFL certificate that you take. That is to say, if you do a proper certificate, 120 or 140 hours, however many it is these days, that counts as experience. So you do have experience once you finish these certificates. And unlike other countries or regions in the world, North America comes to mind, the Middle East, and especially even Europe, places that I would guess you consider more developed and have a very high standard of university tuition. Not saying that China doesn't. What that means is that you're going to have experience post-certification or post-qualification, meaning most universities in Europe or North America won't give you a contract or sponsor a visa unless you are an experienced teacher or an experienced instructor. China, however, will take a chance on you, and if you don't have any post-certificate experience, that's fine. Sometimes they'll still even hire you. Now, some places won't. Tsinghua, Beida, Renmin University, they typically want much more experienced instructors than other universities would allow. There are a lot of universities in Beijing. There are a lot of universities in China. And one of the ways that I got my job, my first job in China, was literally going to Wikipedia, searching for universities in China and searching for universities in Beijing and just going through them, finding which ones had an English program and which ones had job opportunities at the time that I was applying. And I was applying about 6 months ahead of my intended departure from my hometown. So keep that in mind as well when you're applying for jobs, that unless you are already in the country or you already have a Chinese visa, it will probably take about 6 months to process everything for you to get your criminal checks, to get your degrees, your statements of whatever, and then also for them to process the visa and offer the work permit and things like that. Oh yeah, okay, Steve, all right, whatever, China, firewall, visas, whatever, don't care. How much money can we actually make? Ballpark, starting teacher, $2,000 a month. Canadian or US, take your pick, it's gonna be about the same. US dollars is probably about 1,600 US dollars per month. Canadian is about 2,200 Canadian per month. That would be the low end of the range for sure. You could move up $3,000 Canadian, so it's 15,000 renminbi. That would be pretty good as well by most Chinese standards, and that would put you up to what, 36,000 Canadian dollars after tax in your take-home pay. I want to get up and move. So you got that. Between $2,000 to $3,000 Canadian per month is what you're going to be earning after tax. You will be paying tax whether or not the university or the school gives you a tax bill or tells you how much tax you're actually paying. That usually depends on the institution. I think most international schools will actually tell you, and most companies, if you work for a company, not a school, then they might also give you a tax breakdown of the contributions that you've made, the pensions, and everything else that comes off your paycheck. So $2,000 to $3,000 doesn't sound like a lot, and to tell you the truth, the older you get, it doesn't really sound like very much. One thing to consider with these types of jobs is that there are different types of schools that can hire you. So there used to be a lot of private schools that could hire you, and those would pay you the bare minimum, $2,000 to $3,000, to keep you sort of coming back for more. They were usually looking for people with very little experience or people who simply didn't want to work within the school system. Now, there are international schools that will pay much more than that, but also based on your experience. So you might start at 2,000, 3,000 Canadian, or again, 2,000 American per month. But if you stay there for a couple of years, or if you have more experience, they will pay you more. One thing to bear in mind, that to teach at an international school, you do need an actual teaching certificate. And by actual teaching certificate, I mean one of those state-sponsored or the state-certified, accredited certificates, or that you'd have to get for a specific state or province in North America or in Europe as well. So that means if you're from Manitoba or British Columbia, or if you're from Washington or California? Yeah, if you're from California, you would need a certificate or whatever it is, some sort of license. I guess it's a license, a teaching license from the state or the province that says that you are a certified teacher in that jurisdiction. That will often help you get a job much quicker at an international school than if you only had a bachelor's and a teaching certificate. That is an English teaching certificate. So what am I saying? I'm saying that if you want to teach at an international school, you need a bachelor's degree or some sort of university education. If it's not in education itself, then it can be subject specific. Then you need either, if you're going to teach English, you need a CELTA or an English teaching certificate. And then in addition to that, if you're not teaching English, but you're going to teach a subject that is like chemistry or mathematics, then you're going to need some sort of teaching license as well from your home state or province or whatever that things that what I call actual teachers actually have. And if you don't have printed copies of any of this, well, that's why it's going to take 6 months to apply. You're going to have to get copies of this. You're going to have to send them. You might have to get them notarized. And then after that, you're going to have to send them to your contact here in China, and they will run the gamut of like whatever they have to do to stamp and chop them on. And by chop, I mean like red stamp them. So you've got all that, and you're thinking, yeah, sounds like a place to go. Awesome possum. Let's get to it. $2,000 to $3,000 Canadian and American per month. And at most international schools, they'll pay you out every month of the year according to your contract, and not just for the semester. What do I mean by that? I mean that some universities will make you an offer. You can either get paid for the 4 months of the semester or get paid for 6 months, that is half of the year. And the reason being is that for the 2 months that you're off, you might want some cash flow or some money coming into your bank account. So like a English teacher with the first time paycheck, you don't run off to Thailand and blow all your money on whatever they blow their money on Thailand. That was close. Another thing to consider about these jobs is what type of benefits are included in the job itself. Typically, universities might have a better benefit package. Likewise, international schools will definitely have a better benefits package compared to either a private institution, or I'm not even sure if you can teach in a public school here in China. I think that's a lot tougher to accomplish. What sort of benefits are included? If you work for an international school or even a university, if you're not offered an apartment, then you will be subsidized. The apartment they'll give you some money each and every month for that apartment. It might not cover the entire cost of the rental agreement, but at least it'll get you going, so you won't be paying the whole thing. Not only that, some universities have apartments on campus, if not directly adjoined to the college itself, then somewhere on the campus they will own the real estate, and that means that those apartments are already paid for, and they can give you a lower price or a lower rental price every month. This is particularly true for state-sponsored universities, which most of them are. Now, there are other universities that don't have this, and that means that you'd have to live off campus, which would also mean that you have to get to campus or get to the classrooms each and every day. So to reiterate, $2,000 to $3,000 for an entry-level English teacher, fresh off the boat, fresh off the plane. You're living in a subsidized apartment, probably on campus or somewhere nearby, and those apartments will be costing anywhere between, well, most universities that I can remember charge about 4,000 renminbi per month. So if you're making 15,000, subtract 4,000, you're already down to 11,000 renminbi. Divide by 5, you get the Canadian, so about $2,000. Divide by 7 to get the American dollar instead. So 15,000 renminbi is pretty good, but it's also on the lower side of what you'll be making or what someone could make as an English teacher at a university or at a school here in China. And I say the lower side because, again, that's for someone who doesn't have very much experience and might be working at one of the secondary or tertiary universities and not one of the primary ones that sort of have the big research grants and stuff like that. Oh, that's nice and warm. There we go. How much is it going to cost to live in China? Even in a place like Chongqing or, I don't know, Chengdu, places that are cheaper, you'd be spending about 3,000 to 4,000 renminbi per month just on stuff, whether it's food or going out or Waimai, like that is takeout, delivery and stuff like that. In my experience, whatever you spend on rent is typically what you'll spend on food, just given the location of where you are. That's going to be the cost of living in that area. So double that up. So if you're paying 4,000 a month for your apartment, then you'll be spending about 4,000 on food and stuff like that as well. So that's 8,000. So let's run the numbers once again. You're making 15,000. You're spending 4 on rent. You're spending 4 on food. That's 8,000 total. That leaves you 7,000 renminbi per month savings. Divide that by 7, you get the American dollar. So you're saving about $1,000 per month. Divided by 5, you get the Canadian, so you're saving about $1,200 to $1,300 Canadian per month. Again, that's the base rate. That's probably as low as you can get the university, and that's a very easy teaching load for university. We're talking like 16 hours, maybe 12 hours a week. International schools, you're actually probably going to make more at international school, probably around 25,000 per month. Gross pay before taxes. After taxes, your take home might be around 21,000 renminbi per month. Again, divide by 7, so it's about $3,000 American. Divide by 5, it's about 4,000 Canadian. Again, at an international school requiring university degree, either a teaching license and an ESL certificate, or at least a teaching license saying that you are fully certified and eligible to teach in your home state or province. I don't like this, it's all shadowy. Now, something else you could do that's sort of been put off or sort of swept aside in recent years is tutor on the side. Now, to make it clear, it's not entirely legal anymore. And the reason I say it's not entirely legal is because you can't teach a subject that is taught in the school system, and English is one of the languages that's taught, or one of the subjects that's taught in the school system. Not only that, your visa is sponsored by the company, which means you can only work for the company, you can't work for anybody else. So there is sort of a legality that's going on there. Now, all that being said, you as the upstanding international citizen that you are, you're like, no, I will not teach, I will not break the law. And then your boss comes to you and says, would you mind tutoring some students for me? And you're like, how much? And this will happen both at the international school, at the university, and probably all around you. Once they find out, especially if you go to a smaller city, once they find out that there is a qualified and a real life foreign English teacher in town, you will be sought out for your teaching services, if only to make the parents feel good about trying to help little Zhang Shichang go to school and get an international education. But again, whether or not it's legal and whether or not you really want to be doing that as like depending as a method to earn all of your income, well, pick your battles, I guess. Oh, it's a little bit windy here. Kind of cool. Hands are freezing. So we've got qualifications, we've got salary, we've got tutoring. If you don't want to teach English and you're like, Steve, we know you're an English teacher, but we don't want to do that. We don't want to be like you. We want like a cool YouTube channel. We want to make money in China. Well, there are other opportunities. You can work in management. There are a lot of international companies that have bases or headquarters or some sort of offices here, and you can seek those out as well. It might be a little bit more difficult to get those jobs simply because they require different qualifications and specification. I have met so many actors in Beijing, which is bizarre because I'm like, why would you be in China to act? Money and ease of access to the market. You can come here and you can make a living as an actor, even though you don't really have any qualifications, and still make a decent paycheck every month. You could probably even do this in addition to your teaching. Now again, going back to that visa, what might happen is that the acting agency might require you to set up your own company. And you see where I'm going with this. It's not that that is illegal, because you can, it just costs money and takes a little while to set up. Not only that, you have to have a business scope, you have to have certain auditings and blah, 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 blahs, all of which is possible. It's just a little bit more of a upfront investment and not the lowest cost entry into China. If you're just looking to come over here for a year, 2 years, get a bit of a flavor of what it's like to live here and work here amongst the people, then teaching English is a pretty good introduction to that. And by going to business, I mean, if you do set up that company, you don't just have to do acting or teaching English. Matter of fact, I don't think you can set up an education company at the moment, but you could import-export, you can run a consulting company, you can do all sorts of sourcing from China as well. There are a lot of opportunities in China that aren't talked about, but they might not be the first thought that you have when you're like, well, I'd like to go live and work in China. Not only that, teaching English can be a career unto itself if you are looking to get into either administration or manager positions as well, and you're willing to put in the time. Now, most of the managers and administrators that I know in the country, China isn't their first country, and it probably won't be their last country. So that means that if they come to China, they might be here for a while, but they might not be intending to stay forever. That is, they might go back to their hometown or move on to the next destination. Not only that, in the teaching English industry, ESL industry, you have to, if not upskill, then continue adding certificates to your resume. Not just the education, but the certificate itself, to tell you the truth. Working with youth, working with special needs, working in an industry specific, whether it's business or translation, interpretation, or things like that. So you can add to your qualifications by taking these different types of courses and certificates that make you look a lot better on paper, and of course, a better person overall, right? More employable, you're much more resilient. I know, you're a dynamic person. I believe in you. Freshness, Fresh Life Market. Hey, you might recognize this place. The roast duck stall that I did a video on last year at this time, roughly, is right here. 猪食什么的坊, 豆坊. 很有意思. Oh, we can walk down here. 九龙花园. Zhoulong Flower Park. All right, to recap, we got the qualifications: bachelor's degree, CELTA or English teaching certificate, teaching license. We discussed how much money you can make, between 2,000 to 3,000 as a beginner. You can make more depending on where you are, but it also might cost more to live in certain areas: Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou. There are other cities that you can, of course, go to: Chongqing, Chengdu, Harbin, Changchun. Ooh, that one's Changchun is not so bad. Harbin gets cold. Shenyang also gets very cold. You could even go over to Xinjiang if you want a real experience. So there's lots of places to pick, and if you choose one of the bigger cities, you will make more money, but your cost of living will also go up. If you go to one of the tier 2 cities, like even Tianjin, or tier 3 city, your cost of living will be substantially lower, but your ability to make more money will be also restricted a little bit. Now, there are other avenues to consider as well. Gaming companies were huge a couple of years ago. I'm not sure if they're still hiring as many foreigners as they were beforehand. So again, it's not like you have to. We're walking right beside a dump or garbage. Oh my. At least it's winter and it doesn't smell so bad. And this is one place I'd like to check out at some point. It's a Sichuan Chongqing noodle area, Chongqing xiaomian, which at some point I'm gonna have to come here and try that out. I will report back to you. So again, you can look outside of the teaching English industry, the ESL profession, and do something else. There are a lot of opportunities, whether it is working for an international company, whether it's being an actor, or even starting your own business either in China or with China, and you're running the import-export business or consultation business with business goings on within China itself. And finally, do you need to know Chinese to come to China? In recent years, there has been more of a push to raise the standards of who is able to come into China to live and work. And by raise the standards, I mean learning Chinese. That is, they want people who are, if not just interested, then are able to work with the local people so that, I don't know, they don't have to spend so much on English education and instead foist that cost of education onto the foreigner so that they can learn some Chinese. Now, in most cases, this is just an investment of time. Chinese is not an easy language, but it can be done. It's spoken by quite a few people in the country, and there are quite a few people, not just on like YouTube and TikTok, but also Xiaohongshu, that can speak the language pretty well. It does take some time and practice to get accustomed to and to move your mouth in the appropriate manner to pronounce and articulate what you want to say in the Zhongwen Yuyan, but it is possible. You have to spend some time. It will take a long time. Not only that, you can learn spoken Chinese first, practice your listening as well, and then worry about reading and writing later on. Even Chinese people take years. I joke you not. Speaking and listening might be the easiest ones, but reading, okay, that if you're talking about reading Confucius or Sun Tzu, like Sun Tzu, and people like that, and authors like that, that's high-level Chinese. And then writing Chinese, yeah, you can write basic sentences like anybody else, but writing an essay in Chinese, consider what level you want to attain in Chinese and just how much of it that you're able to learn, given that if you come to China, it's only going to be for a year or 2 years or possibly even 5 years. 5 years, you can get pretty good at the language and you'll be talking to the baoan, the delivery drivers, and some ladies at the bar. Whether or not you're going to be marrying into the culture, hey, I mean, I know foreigners who don't know any Chinese and they married into the culture. Again, this is a long video. I did not mean for it to be that long. I hope you got something from it. It gives you a good idea that if you're looking to come over here and to teach English specifically, that it is possible. You don't need to know Chinese. You can make some money. You probably will save money, but you're not going to go from rags to riches. Matter of fact, you're going to probably be shopping at Uniqlo like everybody else. And those are nice clothes. You just might wear them for a long time, and they're good quality. If you have any comments or concerns, drop them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them to the best of my abilities. And of course, if you don't want to drop a comment, there are my contact details in the YouTube About section as well. Thanks for watching. Hope that helps. Let me know how you're getting on. We'll do this again. Have a good one. Bye-bye.